the buyer towards the sale consideration is more than rupees 50 lakhs in that financial year. Is more than rupees 50 lakhs in that financial year. So if the amount received from a particular buyer is not exceeding rupees 50 lakhs, then the TCS applicability will not arise. This is the second condition. So these are the two conditions only. First is that the turnover of the seller in the immediately preceding financial year exceed rupees 10 crore. This is the first condition. And second, the amount received is not the goods sold. It is the amount received. Amount received from the buyer per buyer. Every buyer you have to see it for every buyer that the ceiling of rupees 50 lakhs is crossed in that financial year. This is the thing. If these two conditions are satisfied, then a TCS of 0.1% will be TCS at the rate of 0.1% will be applicable. Yeah, these are the provisions, broader provisions. Now, for the first year, that is the financial year 2021, since it has become effective only from 1st of October 2020, it has been stated that the TCS will not be collected on any amount of sale consideration received before 1/10/2020. This is the second point. Now, friends, let us go by the examples. And instead of reading the sections, let us go by the issues so that it will become more and more interesting. So can you take the slide down? My presentation, can you go down, please? Hello. Can anybody help me there? Who is managing the screen? Anyway. Now, friends, the point is that who is a, let us come one by one. Who is a buyer? The seller will deduct TCS from the buyer, provided these two conditions are satisfied. Now, who is a buyer? It says buyer is any person. Buyer is any person who purchases any goods, but does not include central government, state government, an embassy, and high commission, a legation, a commission, a consulate, or a trade representation of a foreign state. Now, these persons are not covered within the definition of a buyer. So, if any goods are sold to the central government and the consideration is received from the central government, then the TCS will not be applicable. Now, what is a central government or what is a state government? Whether PSUs fall under the definition of central government, public sector enterprises, whether they fall under the definition of central government, my answer will be no. But why? Suppose you are supplying goods to income tax department. Now, when you receive the consideration from the income tax department, will you be deducting TCS? No. Why? Because income tax department is nothing but a central government. It is a part of the central government. But public sector enterprises or public sector units are not part of central government. So they will be subject to TCS. So if any amount is received from PSU, then the same will be subject to TCS. Friends, let me here tell you that in the Constitution, there are the provisions regarding fundamental rights. And it has been said that a writ can be filed. Fundamental rights are available to every citizen of India. Now, if fundamental rights are violated, the citizen who is aggrieved can file the writ in Supreme Court under under the provisions of the Constitution under 226. They can file the writ to claim that their fundamental rights are violated, and they can seek the direction from the court to compel the government authorities to comply with the law, right? So therein, the Supreme Court has many occasions to examine whether the writ can be issued only against the central government or a state government, or can it be issued against any public sector undertaking or not. It has been very clearly established in more than one cases by the Supreme Court in the context of enforcement of fundamental rights, that public sector undertakings are nothing but the central government. They come within the definition of the state. They come within the definition of state, which word have been used in the Constitution of India. And it says, the Constitution says that state includes central government, state government, President of India, Parliament, state legislature, and so on and so forth, local authority and other authorities. Now, the question came up whether the public sector undertaking will fall within the definition of authority, within the definition of the state. Supreme Court said yes, but that is only in the context of enforcement of fundamental right. So when we are talking about the TCS provision and the term central government is used here, there they are not covered. Those Supreme Court judgments will not apply. So public sector undertaking will be out of the purview, will not be out of the purview of TCS. In this context, I would like to give one case law which is relevant from the income tax point of view. There was one judgment. I will just wait for a minute, sir. Yeah. In the context of section 10, 10 within bracket 10 AA, and the case was Kamal Kumar Kalia versus Union of India. It was a Delhi High Court judgment, and it was delivered in the year 2019, 8th of November 2019. Therein, the High Court, Delhi High Court, after examining all the Supreme Court judgment in the context of the fundamental rights, said that the employees of the public sector undertaking or public sector banks cannot be treated as central government employees. They very categorically said that public sector undertaking and the central government both are different terms, and they cannot be clubbed together for the purposes of income tax. For the particularly, I mean, they said this judgment was delivered in the context of section 10 within bracket 10 AA. Now that is clear that for the purposes of provisions of the Income Tax Act, central government and the public sector undertakings are two different things. So the provisions of 1H will be applicable as far as if the buyer is public sector undertaking. This is one point. Now let us go to the bullet points. Now I am not going to this. Can I go to the table ever? Can I go to the table ever? I mean, there are two tables.
Yeah.
Please. Yeah.
Yeah.
Please.
Thoda slightly brief, you can thoda brief.
Please, yeah. Table. No, table ever bit. There are two tables ever bit. Please. Yeah. More. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No. Okay. Okay. Now let me tell you. I mean, what is the applicability of the TCS? TCS has to be collected at the rate of 0.1%, I have told you. But for the transitional period, I mean, for the COVID period, that is the TCS applicability from the 1st of October till 31st March have been reduced to 75% of the actual rate. So actual rate is 0.1%. Now this has been reduced to 0.075%, and this rate is applicable only till 31st March 21. After 31st March 21, the rate of 0.1% will be restored. Now, if somebody does not quote PAN number or Aadhaar number, then what is the implication? If the buyer does not give any PAN number, in that situation, the rate of TCS will be 1%. So instead of 0.1% or 0.075%, if the PAN number is not provided by the buyer, then the rate of TCS will be 1%. Now, when the TCS is to be deposited, TCS is to be deposited within the 7th day of the next following month. So in the month of October, whatever TCS you are collecting, that has to be deposited by 7th of November 2020. Whatever you collect in the month of November will have to be deposited by 7th of December 2020. So this is the way the TCS is to be deposited. Now TCS is to be collected at the time of receipt of money. This has nothing to do at the time with the raising of invoice. Whenever you are raising the invoice, you please do not deduct any TCS. Whenever you are making any adjustment of any discount or any claim, a party has put a claim for defective goods, please do not make any adjustment. TCS is only applicable on the net amount which is received from the customer, from the buyers. Now, when the TCS return have to be filed, TCS return have to be filed within 15 days from the end of each quarter, right? Excepting the last quarter. Last quarter ends on 31st March, for which the TCS return can be filed by 15th of May. And the TCS return have to be filed in form number 27EQ. Now, when the TCS certificate is to be issued, TCS certificate is to be issued within 30 days from the end of each quarter, except for the last quarter, which is 30th May. These are the regulatory provisions which I think everyone knows, but let us discuss more things about the about the doubts or the suspicion which many of our members are harboring. Now, the first point we have discussed, what is the difference between the central government and the PSU. Now, let us come to the point of goods, because TCS is applicable on goods. So, what do you mean by goods? The term goods have been defined under Sale of Goods Act, defined under the CGST Act also. If you see the Sale of Goods Act says, definition very clearly says whether it is the CGST definition or it is the Sale of Goods Act definition. Both the definition very clearly say that goods do not include immovable property. The term goods by its nature include only movable property. Now the point comes whether the TCS will be applicable on any transaction of immovable property. Absolutely no, because this particular section 1H is applicable only on sale of goods or the consideration received on sale of goods, will not apply to immovable property. The point is whether TCS will be collected on sale of shares. Whether the TCS will be collected on sale of shares, the answer is yes. The first answer will be yes, but if the sale of shares is at a recognized stock exchange, then that will come out of the purview of TCS. But if it is other than recognized stock exchange, then the TCS will be applicable. So if there is any off-market transaction, then TCS will be applicable. Somebody might say that I am a dealer in hardware and I have sold goods by way of shares. Now, whether the shares are at all goods, this question also might come up. Yes, shares are very much part of goods as per Sale of Goods Act, but not as per CGST. As per CGST Act, the shares and securities have been taken out of the definition of goods. My friends, the CGST definition and the Sale of Goods definition both are different. And which one we should apply for the purpose of section 1H, this section 1H? Here, in my view, the definition given in Sale of Goods Act should be applied. Then question comes, why not CGST definition? My humble submission here will be that CGST definition of goods will not be applicable because that is a definition with the in the reference of supply of goods, not with reference to the sale of goods. Because we all know that the GST is applicable on supply of goods, not on sale of goods. Similarly, Sale of Goods Act, there the definition of the goods have been given in the context of sale of goods. And since this 206C1H is applicable only for the sale of goods, so the Sale of Goods Act definition should be taken. And if we go by that definition, then the sale includes shares and securities also. Sale includes even green leaves also. If somebody is selling green leaves from a tea plantation, sale will also include that also. So any transaction of shares or any movable property will be covered within the definition of shares. But if the shares are sold over a recognized stock exchange, that has been specifically excluded. Now, let us come to point number one, each point. Point number one, why at all this TCS provision was necessary? This TCS provision was necessary because many bogus billing events were occurring in India, we all know. Actual sale was made to someone else, which we call kacha ka sale, and the billing was done to keep your stock records in a proper way, right, to match with the physical inventory. The billing, bogus billing, which we call jama kharchi billing, is being done in some other name. So in order to avoid these practices, now this section 1H have been introduced. And again, I repeat, 1H has nothing to do with the raising of the bill. 1H will apply only when the sale consideration is received. Point number 2. Now, let me tell you, today the government have introduced this section 1H, which is on the sale consideration against the goods. Now, tomorrow, nobody knows that the TCS provision can be applicable even on capital gain also. There is a thinking going on at the higher level of the government that, I mean, they might come up in the next budget or in between or somewhere afterwards that the TCS provision might be extended to the capital gain also. Today, fund flow statement is not part of the income tax return. Tomorrow might be that fund flow statement can become part of the income tax return also. Government wants to collect more and more information from the taxpayer, and that is these are the steps in that direction only. Now, friends, point number 3, if you see, this limit of rupees 50 lakhs applies per buyer. So if I have, say, 100 buyers, and each one of those buyers is buying goods from me for less than rupees 50 lakhs or up to rupees 50 lakhs, right? Whether this provision will be applicable. My answer will be that there is no, I mean, whether you raise a bill of rupees 50 lakhs or more than 50 lakhs or less than 50 lakhs, or you don't raise any bill on that particular buyer in that particular year. My throat is absolutely out of order, so please excuse me. So that will not be of any consideration for the purpose of 1 lakh. Now, suppose a customer, goods have been sold to a customer 2 years before, say in the year 1819, financial year 1819, worth rupees 2 crore of rupees. And as on 1st of April 2019, as on 1st of April 2020, not 19, there is an outstanding of rupees 1 crore. 2 crore goods were sold in the 1819, and as on 1st of April 2020, there is an outstanding balance from that customer, say rupees 1 crore. Now, during the financial year 2021, there is no single sale to that customer. But you have received rupees 50 lakhs till 30th of September. You have received rupees 30 lakhs or 50 lakhs till 30th of September. Now, since this provision has come into effect from 1st of October, there will not be any impact till 30th of September, whatever money have been received. Had this customer given an amount of, say, rupees 60 lakhs till 30th of September, no TCS will apply. But suppose from 1st of October, that customer have paid, say, rupees 10 lakhs. 50 lakhs have been paid till 30th of September, and 10 lakhs have been paid in the month of October. Whether TCS will be applicable? Yes, TCS will be applicable, provided the seller's turnover in the immediately preceding financial year exceeding rupees 10 crore. While calculating this limit of rupees 10 crore, we have to include GST also, number 1, and we have to include the entire turnover of the goods, turnover of the services also. So that has to be kept in mind. To examine the threshold applicability with respect to rupees 10 crore, we have to include the turnover of the goods as well as the turnover of the sales. Now, assuming that the turnover is exceeding rupees 10 crore, the customer has paid, there is no sale to the customer during the financial year 2021. The customer has paid rupees 50 lakhs till 30th of September. Now he is paying rupees 10 lakhs in the month of October 2020. Whether TCS will be applicable? Yes. Even though there is no single penny sale to that customer, TCS will apply on this rupees 10 lakhs, which we have received in the month of October. And what will be the rate of TCS? TCS rate will be 0.075%. This is kept in mind. Even if there is no sale, TCS is applicable because this TCS have been made applicable on the receipt of consideration, irrespective of when the sale was made. There is a lot of confusion in the professional circle that since this consideration have been received against the sale made in earlier years, this should not be made applicable. I have my own doubts, but I will request CBDT to come out with a clarification in this regard also. This is first point. Now coming to the point number 4. This is again applicable to each buyer. I've already explained. Point number 5. TCS on GST is not a tax on tax. Somebody is saying that the TCS has to be deducted not only on the value of goods, but the value of goods plus the GST charged on it, right? And so suppose, so 1 lakh is the value of goods and GST charge is 18%. So the total value is 1,18,000. So 1,18,000. So whenever you are receiving this 1,18,000, that will be subjected to TCS, provided these two basic conditions are fulfilled. Now, it means the TCS is also applicable on the GST also. Now, the question is, if the TCS is applicable on GST, is it a tax on tax? No, TCS is not a tax. TCS is just an advance tax. It is not a levy. So TCS cannot be branded as a tax on tax or saying tax on GST. This is another point. Now, somebody might say that whether the TCS is retrospective in nature. No, it is not retrospective, because the point they are arguing that it is retrospective, that sales are made in the earlier year, amount are received in the current year, and TCS have been made applicable if the amounts are received in the current year. So is it not retrospective? My humble view is no. This provision is not retrospective because TCS is applicable on the receipt of money, and receipt of money is in the current period, and TCS is applicable on that receipt of money. So there is no retrospectivity here. Point number 6, date of raising of invoice is not important. I've already dealt with. Whenever you are raising the invoice or you are not raising the invoice is absolutely unimportant for the purposes of this 1H. Point number 7. Now, suppose A is selling goods to B and B is also selling goods to A. So there is a cross sale, right? So suppose A has sold goods to B for rupees 1 crore. B has sold goods to A for rupees 80 lakhs. What will happen now? The Mr. A will receive from B only rupees 20 lakhs because 80 lakhs have been set up through the exchange of goods, through the barter of goods between each other, between each one of them. So whether the TCS will be applicable on rupees 20 lakhs or it will be applicable on the full rupees 1 crore or 80 lakhs, whichever side we are talking about. My humble view here will be that TCS will be applicable on the full amount of rupees 1 crore, not on rupees 20 lakhs. Why? Because this 80 lakhs is nothing but a consideration which have been received against the a consideration have been received. But there is a catch here. I mean, catch in the sense the wordings which are used in the act in section 261H is very confusing. There they are using the words any amount received. Any amount received. Now, what do you mean by amount? Does the amount includes any money which is received or even a barter of goods if the consideration are received against any sort of things? So, I mean, this is again a doubt which should be clarified by the CBDT. But in my humble view, I mean, till a clarification comes, the TCS will be applicable even on the value of goods which are, I mean, set off from mutual sales to each other. Now, point number 7. 7 I have completed. Point number 8. Now, point number 8 I have completed. What is the point number 7? Point number 7 I have completed. Yeah. The GST will be included while calculating the limit of rupees 50 lakhs also. This has to be kept in mind. Now, whether branch transfer will be subject to sale? No, not at all. Branch transfers are no sale as far as the income tax is concerned. Branch transfers are, I mean, treated as supply in the GST only. They are not considered as sale in the Income Tax Act. So there will not be any impact of 1H. Now comes point number 10. Whether high C sale will be subject to TCS. We know what is an high C sale. High C sale is a sale which are effected before the goods enter the Indian water territory. If before the goods enter Indian territory, the sales are affected, these are called high C sale. So suppose I am importing goods from Singapore and the bill of entry is in my name. Before the goods enter the Indian territory, water territory, I sell the goods to say Kamal Jainji. Before the goods enter, this is called high C sale. Now what will happen? The custom documents, the goods will be cleared not by me, but by the Kamal Jainji. The duty, custom duty will be paid by Kamal Jainji, not by me, because this is a high C sale. So high C sale, what I mean to say that high C sale is nothing but a sale outside India. Since it is a sale outside India, it will not be subject to 1H, right? So this is my view here. A clarification from CBDT will always be welcome on these points. Point number 11, sale of crops. Whether it will be sale, yes, it is sale as per Sale of Goods Act. So since it is a sale as per Sale of Goods Act, I have already told you in the beginning that the definition of goods which is given in Sale of Goods Act will be applicable, not the definition of goods which is given in the CGST Act, because CGST Act does not deal with the sale of goods. CGST Act deals with the supply of goods. So that definition cannot be applied to the provisions of the Income Tax Act so far as this 1H is concerned. So sale of crops, TCS is applicable. So somebody is having a tea garden, they are selling the green leaves, then the TCS will be applicable provided other conditions are fulfilled. Now, point number 12, sale of immovable property, whether TCS will be applicable? Absolutely not, because immovable property do not fall within the definition of goods in any of the act. Whether, I mean, the goods have been defined under the Constitution also, goods have been defined under Sale of Goods Act also, goods have been defined under CGST Act also. None of the definition includes immovable property within the domain of the term goods. So whenever there is a transaction of immovable property, 1H will not apply. Point number 13, sale of TDR, whether TCS will be applicable or not. TDR, we know, transferable development right. This concept is very much applicable in Mumbai. So TDR are something of a right which are related with immovable property. In my humble view, since immovable property are not goods, so any right attached to the immovable property should also be not treated as goods and TCS should not apply. But there are other views also which says that any right in immovable property is a movable property and the they will fall within the definition of the goods. So there are counter views here, of the different professionals. A clarification from the CBDT is welcome, but my personal view is till us, this clarification comes on, TCS will not be applicable on the sale of TDR. Can we move to point number 14 in the next slide? Please, can you move the slide below? Point number 14. Yeah. Yeah. Point number 14. Now, point number 14, if you see, whether the TCS will be applicable on electricity. Suppose I have a plastic unit and electricity is supplied by Calcutta Electric Supply Corporation. Or suppose I have a plastic unit in a rural area where the electricity is supplied by West Bengal State Electricity Board, whether TCS will be applicable or not. Because I will be paying electricity dues. I am a buyer and I will be paying against those dues to those electricity companies. So question comes whether the electricity are really goods. Do they fall within the definition of goods? Yes, it has been held by the Supreme Court in 2003 in anti-PC case that electricity, though it is an intangible asset, still it falls within the definition of the goods. And even if you see for the custom tariff act, there is a classification code given to the electricity, so as a goods. So it can be safely presumed now that electricity is nothing but goods, and the provisions of section 1H will apply here. But one exemption has been given here. What is that? If the electricity have been purchased from the electricity exchanges, we know there are so many electricity exchanges. If those are recognized electricity exchanges and electricity is purchased from them, then the TCS provision will not be applicable. Now, point number 16. As per circular 17 dated, let me tell for the benefit of all viewers here, the two guidelines have been issued. Two notifications or circulars have been issued by the department, CBDT, on 29th of September and one is on 30th of September. Both these guidelines and the circular, they make the section 1H, 261H very clear. There were a lot of doubts earlier before these circulars were released. Now, after the release of the circular, all those doubts have been put at rest. Now, point number 17. If invoice is for supply of plant and machinery, and installation charges are also added in the same bill, whether TCS will apply only on the value of the plant or machinery, or it will also apply on the installation charges, because installation charges are in the nature of services, whereas supply of plant and machinery or supply of machinery is in the nature of, I mean, sale of plant and machinery is in the nature of sale of goods. And we know that the TCS provisions are only applicable to goods. They are not applicable to services. If the consideration is received against sale of services, TCS provisions are not applicable. But if the sale of goods is there, then the TCS provision is applicable. But if there is a single bill wherein one machinery have been built, invoice is raised for one machinery, and below that there are installation charges, then whether the TCS will, and then there is a GST also. Now the question is whether TCS will be applicable on the installation charges or not. Friends, here the answer will be that if the installation charges or any other charges for that matter are part and parcel or incidental to the cost of the plant and machinery, right, or to the goods, I will say, then the TCS will be applicable. If they are not incidental, then the TCS will not be applicable. It will be advisable to advise our clients. I presume that most of the members who are here, they all are, I mean, chartered accountants or businessmen. If they are businessmen, I will advise them that please, when you raise your invoice, you raise two different invoices. For goods, you raise a different invoices. For installation charges, for other charges, which you think that the TCS should not be made applicable, please make a separate invoice for that, so that, I mean, at least there will be clarity. So this is regarding the combined billing. Next is point number 18, slump sale. Now we all know what is a slump sale. Slump sale is the sale of an undertaking, I mean, as a whole, undertaking as a whole. Now, an undertaking might be having lot of assets, immovable assets, movable assets, current assets, many assets, and then there are current and liabilities also, right? Everything taken together, one single price is fixed and the unit is sold or the undertaking is sold as a slump sale. Might be that in a slump sale, one of the item is an item of immovable property. We have already discussed that TCS is not applicable on immovable property. But in a slump sale, where there might be an item of immovable property, so how do we segregate that portion? Or the TCS will be applicable on the entire consideration, I mean, made for the slump sale. My personal view will be here the immovable property or the movable property will not be identified separately, and the entire consideration will be subject to TCS. This is my personal view, but there is no clarity, and it is expected that CBDT comes out with a clarification on this aspect also. Now, serial number 19, sale of shares of closely held companies. Now, I have already said that shares are included within the definition of goods as far as Sale of Goods Act is concerned. But shares are not included under the definition of goods if you look at the definition given in the CGST Act. Because CGST Act says that goods means all movable property other than transactions in securities and money, right? But in Sale of Goods Act, if you see, there the definition is given that goods means all movable property, including securities and but excluding money and excluding actionable claims. So as per Sale of Goods Act, actionable claims are excluded, but shares and securities are included. As per CGST Act, which definition in my view will not be applicable for the purpose of annex, because that is given in the context of supply of goods, not in the context of sale of goods. But the CGST definition says that the goods include any movable property, but and also includes actionable claims, but does not include securities and money. So there are two things. As far as actionable claim is concerned, CGST, it is included in the definition of goods, but as per the Sale of Goods Act, actionable claims are not within the definition of goods. Now, friends, what is actionable claim? Actionable claim is an item like, I can give an example, insurance claim. Now, if suppose there is an insurance claim which we have lodged against any insurance company for loss of or for loss of goods or for fire or whatever it is, right? So that claim is called actionable claim. So as per as the Sale of Goods Act, it says that I mean the actionable claims are not falling within the definition of goods, but and I have already told you in the beginning that in my humble view, the definition of goods as given in the Sale of Goods Act will be applicable for the purposes of Section 1H, but we again need a clarification from the department. So the the sale of shares of the closely held company will be subjected to TCS even if the concerned assessee is not dealing in shares. Still, the same will be covered in the definition for the purposes of Section 1H. This is my view, but there are some learned professionals who are of the view, since I am not dealing in the shares, this should not be subjected to TCS. But then, until a clarification comes from the department, I am of the view that the TCS is applicable even on sale of shares of the closely held companies. Why I am not saying widely held companies? Because widely held companies transactions are mostly undertaken over the recognized stock exchange. But even in case of a widely held companies, if there are off-market transactions, TCS under Section 1H will be applicable. Now, point number 20. Now, goods sold. Can we move upward, please? Serial number 20. Now, serial number 20, if you all see, it is there before you, that goods sold, payment fully received. Now, suppose there is a one solitary transaction, invoice have been raised for rupees 1 crore in the month of October 2020, and the customer have paid the full amount, 1 crore, including GST. So, nothing is pending. The 1 crore amount have been received from the customer. Sale have been made in the month of October 2020. Consideration have been received also in the month of October 2020. And since the amount is exceeding rupees 50 lakhs, TCS will be applicable, provided the other condition that the turnover in the immediately preceding financial year is exceeding rupees 10 crore. Now, TCS have been collected on rupees 1 crore, which is inclusive of GST, and this will be deposited in the month of November. TCS have been deposited. Now, in the month of November, before 7th of November, we deposit this TCS collected to the income tax department. Now, after 7th of November, say the customer returns some goods out of those goods which you have already invoiced and for which you have received full consideration. Either the customer returns part of the goods or customer raises a claim on the supplier for some defects in the goods. Some goods are defective or there are defects in some way or other in those goods, and he raises a claim on the vendor after say 7th of November, after that, or even after the tax TCS have been collected, because the moment payment have been made, TCS have been collected. Now here the invoice was raised inclusive of GST for rupees 1 crore rupees. Now 1 crore plus 0.075%, this amount is also required to be paid by the customer. So plus that amount the customer has already paid. Now, after this amount have been paid, there are no other transactions with the customer, but the customer is now raising that there are defects in the goods and please you give me back rupees 10 lakhs. He is claiming rupees 10 lakhs. Now, what will be the impact on TCS, which has already been collected on the full amount on rupees 1 crore and have been collected, TCS have been collected. Now, whether this TCS can be reversed later on? No. TCS once paid, once deducted or once taken from the customer, this cannot be adjusted. This cannot be reversed. What is the option to the customer then? The customer can claim this TCS hit in his return of income because it will appear in form number 26 AS, and the customer, when he will be filing his return of income, he will claim the full amount of TCS against his actual tax liability. So that is the only option. So there cannot be any reversal, whether on account of discount, on account of sales return, on account of volume discount, on account of defects in the goods, whatever it is, TCS will not be reversed. Once collected, it will be paid. When the collection will be done? Collection will be done only on the receipt. Now, again, coming back to the same example, that we have sold goods to the same customer for rupees 1 crore, inclusive of GST. The customer has not paid us the amount. Right? Now, in the month of November, the customer raises a claim of rupees 10 lakhs. So customer pays me the net amount of rupees 90 lakhs only. Vendor is agreeing to the defect, right? And the customer is now paying only rupees 90 lakhs. Now, whether the TCS will be applicable on rupees 90 lakhs or on rupees 1 crore. Here, amount actually received is rupees 90 lakhs and TCS is applicable or is to be calculated only on the amount received, not on the amount billed. So amount received is since only rupees 90 lakhs, TCS will be calculated only rupees 90 lakhs. So this is the difference between the two examples which I have given. I think that will make your concept more clear. Now, point number 21, I have discussed. Point number 22, forward contract. TCS will be applicable? Yes, 1H will be applicable. Now, we all know there are special economic zones in our country. There are export-oriented units in our country. Sales made to them are treated as deemed exports as per some provisions of the Income Tax Act and as per other acts also. Now, for the purposes of Section 1H, whether it will be, can it be treated that these are exports out of India? Because TCH is not applicable if the goods are exported out of India. So can it be treated that if the goods are supplied to SEZ or EAU, TCS will not be applicable under section under 1H, under subsection 1H? No. Since SEZ are situated into India, EAUs are situated within the boundaries of India, and since these will not be treated as exports out of India, TCS will be applicable. But again, I repeat, a clarification from the Income Tax Department or from the CBDT is welcome to remove any anomaly here. There might be a different view of the professionals here in this point, on this point. Serial number 24, sale of export promotion license at DEPB, etc. We know there are a lot of licenses which are purchased and sold in the market. Whether TCS will be applicable, provided other conditions are fulfilled, yes, TCS is very much applicable even to the export promotion licenses. 25, sale of old year's receivable. I told you by giving an example earlier, the sale was made in the financial year 18-19, no sale later on, only the amount have been received in the current year in the month of October. TCS have to be collected provided other conditions are fulfilled. So point number 25 has already been elaborated well in my initial part of the deliberation. Point number 26, sale is 60 lakhs of rupees received during the year. Sale is 60 lakhs of rupees, right? Suppose the sale has been made in the month of October and amount received is only rupees 49 lakhs. Whether TCS will be applicable? No. Why? Sale is 60 lakhs. Nothing to do with the sale amount. Since the amount received is less than rupees 50 lakhs or equal to 50 lakhs, it is not exceeding rupees 50 lakhs, TCS will not be applicable. So raising of invoice is immaterial. Might be you have raised invoice of 60 crores of rupees, but if during the year you are receiving from that customer an amount only up to rupees 50 lakhs, then the TCS applicability will not be there in that year. But in subsequent years, if you are receiving the amount more than rupees, every year this ceiling is 50 lakhs is there. Every year the customer, I mean, you have to apply this threshold limit of rupees 50 lakhs every year to every buyer on receipt of money, receipt of consideration. Now, we all know the bill discounting. What is a bill discounting? We sell a goods, we raise an invoice, and we get the bill discounted from our banker. Now, once the bill is discounted, we receive the money. But do we get the 100% money from the bank? No. Bank discounted to the extent of 80% or 90%. Some amount they keep it as a margin. Say 10% have been kept as a margin. Now, when the amount have been received by way of bill discounting, whether TCS will be applicable? Yes, TCS will not be applicable because bill discounting is not the receipt of consideration from the customer. It is a financing by the bank. It is a sort of a loan. So on loan transactions, TCS under 1H is not applicable. So bill discounting TCS will not be applicable. It is only when the customer pays full amount against the bill to the bank and the bank gives me the balance amount 10% that I will make the TCS on the full amount of 100%. So this has to be kept in mind as far as 27 is concerned. Point number 28, sorry, I'm really sorry. Yeah, I have a flight to catch at 3 p.m. So I will be taking another 5 minutes. I will be going rather quick here. Now, whether point number 28, factoring. Factoring is something when the receivables are bought and sold. So if I have sold all my receivable to say one particular entity, then I am not concerned. I will not be receiving any further money from my debtors. So whether TCS will be applicable when my receivables are sold? Yes, TCS will be applicable when the receivables are sold. So on factoring, TCS is applicable. Point number 29, sale of softwares. It is a very dicey situation. Now, whether the sale of software is goods or whether it is a royalty, I mean services. If it is a services, then the royalty is attracted. Section and then TDS will be deducted under section 194H. So TCS will not be applicable under 1H. But if these are goods, if these are treated as goods, then the TCS under 1H will be applicable. We all know this matter. I mean, earlier by the Supreme Court in the TCS case, we all know software held to be off the shelf software were held to be goods. But again, there is a matter which is pending in the Microsoft case. The matter is pending before the Supreme Court. The matter has traveled from the Delhi High Court to the Supreme Court. Delhi High Court has said that the sale of software is not goods, as far as this particular that case is concerned, and where the Microsoft was claiming that the sale of their software was in the nature of goods and the royal and not a royalty, and the TDS under 194H should not have been applied. But the matter is pending before the Supreme Court now. Arguments have been given. We are still awaiting the judgment from the Supreme Court. So we do not know. But so far as the 1H is concerned, the straight answer is if the softwares are treated as goods, 1H will be applicable. If the software are not treated as goods, 1H will not be applicable. Now, as far as the car dealer is concerned, now we all know there is already an existing section 1G. 1G is applicable from B to C. It is not applicable to B to B. So if I am buying a Maruti car, the value of which is exceeding rupees 10 lakhs of rupees, then 1G is applicable. Maruti car dealer will deduct TCS from me when I will be paying price for that car. But if the value of car is less than rupees 10 lakhs, Maruti car dealer will not be deducting any TCS under the existing section 1G. Right? Now, what will happen after the 1H is coming to force? 1H is applicable only after the consideration exceeds 50 lakhs. Now, 1H is applicable even to B2B and B2C also. Now, consider a case where the TCS has already been collected in 1G, then 1H will not apply. But consider a case that there is a Maruti car, the value of which is say 5 lakhs of rupees, and no TCS is collected under 1G because value of each car is less than 10 lakhs. Now, suppose during the year I buy 12 cars of rupees 5 lakhs each. So total value of cars is 5 lakhs into 12, 60 lakhs of rupees. So total value of the consideration received by me, by the dealer from me is more than rupees 50 lakhs. So TCS will be applicable over an amount over and above rupees 50 lakhs. So on the balance 10 lakhs of rupees, the dealer will be collecting TCS under 1H. Why? Because there was no TCS under 1G for each of the car. And further, the TCS under 1H will be applicable whenever the manufacturer is selling the car to the distributor or to the dealer also, which was not there in the case of 1G. So this has to be kept in mind. Now, point number 31, I've already discussed. So can we go to the next slide? Can you move it upward, please? Yeah. Point number 32, cash sale. Now, somebody might say that cash sale, I mean, they will, cut the invoice, raise the invoice, each invoice less than 50,000 rupees, right, to comply with the GST provision. And the name of the customer is not given, mobile number is not given, address of the customer is not given, obviously PAN number is not there. And suppose somebody is making crores and crores of sale by way of cash sale. So what will be the situation? There is no answer to it. Let me tell you very frankly. You can always argue and you will start fighting with the department that how do I know whether the customer, which customer, because customers are not giving me PAN number, and they might be different customer. There might be one single customer. There might be one customer whose the total consideration received against a particular customer might be more than 50 lakhs. But how do I know? How do I ascertain? Because these are all cash sales. I don't have any trace of those customers. And let me friends tell you, these things will not buy peace to you. The department is not going to leave you. The department will treat all these as bogus sales or as sales without having any PAN number, and they will rather, instead of imposing 0.1%, they will impose a 1% TCS on you, and there will be penal provisions, there will be prosecution. So friends, if the cash sale component is a minor component of your total sale, then probably it is okay. But if it is a major component of your sale, friend, do devise some system by which you identify, or otherwise you collect 1% TCS from the customer under one H and deposit it. I mean, whatever way, but department will not take it easily. But if you ask me that whether you can argue or you can litigate, well, if you have or if a litig, we all know that we have good merit in the share capital case. We all know that we all have a good merit in the LTCG case. But what happened? The department is not agreeing now. Now everybody is now fed up with the department. Everybody is availing those disclosure schemes. Vivad se viswas tak. So why? Because it is very difficult to fight with the department. Now even the courts are not favoring the assessees. They all know that this is a big racket which is going on. These are all jama kharchi transactions, and the courts also do not give any favor to the assessee nowadays. So friends, beware regarding the cash sale. This is my personal view. Now, whether nil, now we all know in other cases of TDS and the TCS, we always obtain a nil TDS certificate from the income tax officer, and then we give it to the other person concerned, and it doesn't deduct any TCS. Or there is a lower TDS or TCS certificate from the department, which is given to the other party, and accordingly at a lower rate, the TDS or TCS is affected. Whether for the purposes of 1H can be obtained as nil certificate or a lower rate of certificate from the department? No, there is no such provision given under those relevant sections. Point number 34, transactions in commodities. Now same answer, transaction in securities, the same answer here for the commodities, that TCS will be applicable under 1H, but if the commodity transactions are over a recognized commodity exchange under Income Tax Act, then the TCS, it will be out of the purview of TCH. Point number 35. If the fuel is supplied to non-resident airlines at Indian airports, TCS is excluded. This is a specific exclusion, so TCS will not apply. 36. Buyer does not, now I have already explained point number 36, that the term buyer does not include government, does not include embassy, does not include high commission. So somebody asked me whether a public hospital, whether they will come under the definition of buyer or not, whether TCS will apply to them or not. Now friends, answer to it will lie in the finding, your finding, whether that hospital is a government department or it is not a government department. If it is a unit of Ministry of Health, if it is, I repeat, if it is a unit of Ministry of Health, then it is a government department and will fall within the definition of government, and TCS under 1H will not apply. But if it is not a unit of Ministry of this thing, and if it is a different sort of like a PSU, it is a different undertaking, then the TCS will apply. So you have to examine it from that angle. Point number 37, TCS applicable even if buyer is PSU. I have already explained. Point number 38, buyback of shares. We all know buyback of shares. Here also you can add one more point, allotment of shares. Buyback of shares and allotment of shares, whether TCS will be applicable or not. Friends, in my view, there is no clarity, but in my humble view, TCS should not be applied in case of buyback, nor in case of allotment of shares, because buyback is not against sale consideration. Buyback is the cancellation of shares. And as far as allotment of shares is concerned, that is an allotment, not a sale of shares. So in both the situations, TCS will not apply. Now, friends, point number 37, TCS applicable, I've already explained. 38, I've already explained. 39. Now, what about now whether you should deduct TCS? I mean, what should you do? Whether the TCS should be mentioned in the invoice or TCS should be raised to debit note. My answer is please show it as a debit note. Don't include it in invoice, because invoice has nothing to do with the TCS. TCS is a levy. TCS is a collection which is with reference to only collection, nothing to do with the raising of the invoice. So in my humble view, it should be only with respect to the debit note, by way of a debit note only. Now, friends, there are other provisions which are 194A and then another, remittance under, friends, I'm really, really very, very sorry. I'm really hard pressed. I'm in Jadapur area right now. I will have to go to the airport. My
Oh,
flight is exactly as 5 minutes past 3. So I have to really rush, and it's a COVID time. There are a lot of checks there at the security at the airport. So any quick question, one or two I can take. Otherwise, I may be excused for. If you have any query, you can send me an email through your association, Terapanthi Professional Forum. and you can send me query. I will reply all your queries. I mean, there will not be any issue. And any quick question, one or two. I mean, anybody?
नहीं, हाँ, किसी का कोई रेज हो तो कृपया हैंड रेज कर दे। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद मोदी जी, आपने अपना समय निकाला और हम लोगों को बहुत अच्छे तरीके से समझाया। आपका समय बहुमूल्य है। ऐसे तो किसी का अभी हैंड रेज नहीं है, लेकिन अगर किसी का हो तो कृपया अपना हैंड रेज करें और पूछ सकते हैं अनम्यूट करके।
सर मेरी एक क्वेरी थी।
हाँ जी।
हाँ सर, मैं जैसे आपने तो सर ये डेबिट नोट के विषय में बताया है, मैं जस्ट एक मेरी छोटी क्वेरी ये है कि सर कोई भी बैलेंस अगर 30 सितंबर तक का अगर बैलेंस है
हाँ
पुराना किसी पार्टी का,
हाँ
जो कि 50 लाख के ऊपर प्रोसीड्स मिल चुका है अप टू 30 सितंबर,
हाँ।
तो उसके लिए हमें 1 अक्टूबर या फिर अक्टूबर के महीने में एक डेबिट नोट रेज कर देना चाहिए क्या, जो भी बैलेंस फिगर है उस पर?
नहीं, बैलेंस के लिए कुछ आपको रेज नहीं करना। जो पैसे पुराने आ गए 30
हाँ।
सितंबर तक,
हाँ।
उसके ऊपर में टीसीएस लागू नहीं है।
और उसके बाद जो 1 अक्टूबर के बाद आएंगे उस पर?
तो आपको मिले, आपको 1 लाख रुपया कस्टमर दे चुके, 50 लाख ऑलरेडी मिल चुका है, थ्रेशोल्ड क्रॉस हो चुका है, दूसरी कंडीशन भी एज्यूम करते हैं सेटिस्फाई हो रही है, तब 1 लाख रुपया भी आया, तो आप 1 लाख रुपया पर 0.075% काट लीजिए, 0.075% का डेबिट नोट इस पर रेज कर दीजिए।
नहीं, वो अपन रिसिप्ट अपने को डेबिट नोट रेज करना है, या फिर हम लोग 1 अक्टूबर में टोटल बैलेंस, ओपनिंग बैलेंस जो मिलना है उस पर एक बार में डेबिट नोट रेज कर सकते हैं?
तब कीजिए, टोटल पर आप करेंगे, पता चलेगा 31 मार्च तक पैसा नहीं आया, फिर वो अमाउंट बढ़ जाएगा, रेट बढ़ जाएगी 1%। सरकार कब क्या रेट चेंज करेगी आप नहीं जानते हैं, तो जब जो रेट है, जिस अमाउंट जब मिलेगा उस समय जो रेट एप्लीकेबल है वही रेट ही चार्ज कीजिए, क्योंकि सरकार अभी स्टार्ट कर रही है 1% से, 0.1 से, पता नहीं है कल के दिन 0.2 करे कि 3 करे 4 करे, नोबडी नोस।
और उसके बाद जो सर अपन 1 अक्टूबर से जो सेल करेंगे, आपने ये सजेस्ट किया है कि डेबिट नोट रेज करें, इनवॉइस में ऐड नहीं करें हम लोग।
हाँ हाँ हाँ, यस, ये मेरा सजेशन है।
ठीक है, क्योंकि यहाँ पे जो सॉफ्टवेयर जो डेवलप हो रहे हैं टी गार्डन में, वो लोग
यू आर राइट, एब्सोल्युटली। वो सॉफ्टवेयर कहीं ना कहीं शायद वो प्रॉपर सॉफ्टवेयर बहुत पहले ही उन्होंने चेंज कर दिया था। ये क्लैरिफिकेशन 29 सितंबर को और 30 सितंबर को आया, तो शायद मेरे ख्याल से वो लोग रीलुक करेंगे और सॉफ्टवेयर को अपना चेंज करना चाहेंगे।
क्योंकि दिक्कत ये आ जाएगी सर, बाद में जो पैसा आएगा, जो ऑन अकाउंट पैसा आता है, फिर हमें कैलकुलेशन करने में दिक्कत होगी, कौन सा इंक्लूसिव ऑफ टीसीएस है, कौन सा विदाउट टीसीएस है, फिर वो
फुल्ली विद यू
दिक्कत आने
सर,
वाली।
आई एम फुल्ली विद यू, आई एम फुल्ली विद यू, आई एम
ठीक है। और
फुल्ली।
दूसरी दिक्कत आएगी सर, ईवे बिल में अगर हम लोग जोड़ देते हैं तो ईवे बिल के साथ मिसमैच रहेगा, अगर हम लोग इनवॉइस में ऐड कर देते हैं तो।
फुल्ली एग्री, आई फुल्ली एग्री, आई फुल्ली।
अच्छा सर, इसके अंदर अगर कोई नॉन कंप्लायंस रहता है ऑन द पार्ट ऑफ सेलर, तो बायर के ऊपर कोई लाइबिलिटी आती है सर?
नहीं नहीं, बायर के ऊपर कोई लाइबिलिटी नहीं है सर, ये तो सेलर की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है, तो बायर क्या करेगा, वही तो सेलर ही रिस्पॉन्सिबल, शेयर को कलेक्ट करना है। अब कोई बोलता है कि सेलर कलेक्ट करेगा, बायर नहीं देगा, तो क्या होगा? अब बायर नहीं देगा तो बायर के ऊपर में आपको टीसीएस एक लीगल लाइबिलिटी है। अब कोई बायर नहीं दे रहा है तो आपको, यू कैन टेक हिम टू द कोर्ट, आप उसको सिविल सूट फाइल करेंगे उसके अगेंस्ट में।
ठीक है सर, थैंक यू सो मच।
तो
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद मोदी जी। हाँ, आपने समय निकाला हमारे साथ में, हमारे ब्रांच के कनक जी जैन, हमारे गुलगुलिया जी, वीरेंद्र जैन सब जुड़े हुए हैं, उन सबका बहुत बहुत आभार व्यक्त करता हूँ। और जो भी जुड़े हैं सबका मैं स्वागत और आभार व्यक्त करता हूँ। और मोदी जी से आग्रह करूंगा कि आगे भी वो हम लोगों को समय दे अपना, इसी के लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। मोदी जी, आपको जाना है इसलिए अब ज्यादा समय नहीं लेंगे, आगे फिर कोई मीटिंग होगा उसमें आपका लेंगे। एक बार फिर आपको आभार व्यक्त करते हुए आज की मीटिंग यहीं समाप्त करते हैं।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सर,
धन्यवाद
आपने ये
मोदी
मेरे
जी।
को,
बहुत
आपने
बहुत
मेरे को
नहीं,
अपॉर्चुनिटी दी।
मैं आपको हाँ नहीं नहीं, आप तो अभी मैं सबको परिचय दे दूं, मोदी जी अभी डंकन इंडस्ट्रीज के आईपी भी हैं और बहुत अच्छे तरीके से देख रहे हैं। तो सभी को एक बार आभार व्यक्त करते हुए आज की सभा को यहीं खत्म किया जाता है। ओम हरम।
थैंक यू।
थैंक यू। हमारे साथ विक्रम जी भी जुड़े हुए हैं। चिंडालिया जी अगर 1 मिनट में कुछ बोलना, विचार व्यक्त कर दे। चिंडालिया जी, विक्रम जी।
मोदी जी को बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। और आप सबने बोल ही दिया है तो मेरे लिए ज्यादा बोलने लायक कुछ है नहीं, बहुत अच्छा टॉपिक था। और आप आशा करूंगा कि आगे भी इनका डेलिब्रेशन हमको मिलता रहेगा। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। ओम हरम सभी को।
हमारे वो टीपीएफ के नेशनल प्रेसिडेंट जुड़े थे नवीन जी, लेकिन किसी कारण से वापिस चले गए, अभी अभी इलेक्ट हुए हैं। टीपीएफ में देश भर में 40 शाखाएं, 40 से 50 शाखाएं हैं और कलकत्ते में 5 है। आपको थोड़ा संक्षिप्त बता दूं। इसी के साथ मोदी जी नमस्कार, आपको जाना है, विश हैप्पी जर्नी।
धन्यवाद धन्यवाद।
आप फिर जुड़े इसी के साथ। धन्यवाद साहब।
धन्यवाद कमल भैया, आपका स्पेशल धन्यवाद।
हाँ, कमल जी को बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद
Thank
कि
you, भाई।
आपने जो है कि मोदी जी को जोड़ा। बहुत बहुत परिचय भी हमारा मोदी जी से आपने करवाया था। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद कमल जी, कनक जी, वीरेंद्र जी, सभी जुड़े हुए, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
धन्यवाद।
एक बार कंचन जी को भी बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद जिन्होंने आज यह प्रोग्राम का संचालन किया। वो भी चार्टेड अकाउंटेंट है, हमारे मेंबर है। कंचन जी, सभा को समापन के लिए आप एक बार। कंचन जी,
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद देती हूँ और अब सभा का समापन करती हूँ। थैंक यू सो मच एवरीवन।
थैंक यू साहब।
I leave it.
Thank you, Ramratan ji.
Thank you.
नाउ वी क्लोज द मीटिंग।
Yeah.
हाँ,
अब इसको बंद करो।
ठीक है कमल जी।
हाँ भाई।
ओके जी। उमेश जी नाटा जी भी जुड़े हुए हैं। मनमोहन जी खंडेलवाल जी को बहुत बहुत नमस्कार हमारा। ठीक है कमल जी।
हाँ भाई।
ठीक है, ओके जी।
ठीक है, खत्म।
मीटिंग